Are you good?
I think you're good when you are.
The time is 6 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Garrett, will you please lead us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. I will make a motion as there's a couple changes. I motion that we approve the agenda, but with the change on action item H, the dollar amount should read $883.15. The entire PO was $1964.21, but the portion we are approving is only $883.15. And then also, we would like to remove policy advisory 747 and make it its own action item.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the public hearing on the instructional time model. The board will vote to suspend the regular meeting to conduct a public hearing on the instructional time model. I motion that we suspend the regular meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second from Ms. Reed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is now suspended. Dr. J?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and guests, tonight we're looking at the instructional time model again. We went back and took the feedback of cleaning up a couple of the tables and putting them in different locations. But I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
I do not have any questions. Are there questions from other members of the board?
The only question I had was how much wiggle room do we schedule in, like, outside of what is required as far as like instructional time?
So at each grade level, it's quite different. The elementary is way over their minutes, so they finish with plenty. I would say the middle school, same. The high school overall is the only part where we're a little tight is on seniors. So because the district has had a long history of having early release seniors, they have to be in school for 4 clock hours a day, and they have to take the equivalent of 4 classes per, in a traditional semester would be a total of 8 classes. In the trimester, they do 3, 3, and 3, so it's 9. So they actually take more classes than they would have in a semester by 1. And then with the 4-hour schedule there, it's pretty tight. Like we have a couple of assemblies, and that's about it. And if we go under that, we could be getting pretty close.
Okay. And are we required like per student to meet that, or is it just for us to have it scheduled and?
Per student.
Okay.
And we did get, when we went to trimesters, we did get the schedule approved by the AD, and we have documentation of that we met all the requirements for full funding. But like I said, we have to watch it pretty close. So we have a document that shows the minutes, and the principals need to be, especially it's really Mrs. Pinto. She needs to be conscious of the fact that if she schedules any additional non-instructional time, that she runs it through us to make sure we stay above that level.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from members of the board? Hearing none, this is a public meeting. If there's questions from anyone in the audience, we will take those now. Seeing none. Thank you for the information on the instructional time model. With that, the board will vote to reconvene the regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The meeting is now in session. Informational reports. We'll start with Dr. J.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and guests, thank you all for being here tonight. Just a couple of things. One, I had my first coffee with parents and community. It was well attended, and we went about an hour 45, so a lot of talking, a lot of drinking of coffee. It was good, but a lot of good feedback on the start of the school year and things that we can continue to work on. We're doing those monthly at the superintendent level. We have had our first back to school night. I wanted to bring back the tradition of having a back-to-school night, something the district hasn't done in a while. It's all been focused on Falcon Fest. And I just think it's really important to come in and learn about the curriculum, have the teachers after about a month of time, be able to talk with the parents about their daily routines and have the parents sit in their kid's desk. I think that's important stuff. So we brought that back. The elementary had theirs last week, and Val did a great job, and the teachers did a nice job of having 2 sessions, a K2 session, a 3-5 session. And then the middle school and high school has theirs coming up on September 9th at 5:30. So the middle school parents will meet in the cafeteria with Dr. Wheeldryer, and the high school parents will meet in the lecture hall with Mrs. Pinto. And they'll walk their kids' schedule and have an opportunity to learn what's going on in each class and make some connections for our teachers. So one of many parent engagement activities that we're bringing to the district this year to continue to grow in that area. High school sports is off to a good start. Our football team has won their first 2 games, and it's exciting to see Coach Skirm has grown the program. There's more kids out than there were when he started, and that's important. And they had a nice win on Friday night. I did go up to Payson and watch our volleyball team. We have one of our players here in the crowd today. And they did really well up in Payson, played a lot of games, but it was fun to watch. And our swim team has their first meet coming up on the 10th. I also want to share real quick with parents here and anyone watching. We did launch our new website, so we're about halfway in the transformation from the old site to the new one. So this is the district site, and some of these links will be continue to be updated, but it's pretty updated right now. But it's a good marketing site for us to be able to share the things that we're doing. We have 5 of our 7 new videos on there that we had done by a local videographer, Andrew Day. So we're excited about that. I'm going to show one of them here in a minute. The high school site is the one that's the most complete, and that's because that's the one that gets probably used the most. But one of the things that was really important to us is on a lot of school websites, it's hard to find things. And so feedback I received is there's certain things that I just want it to be right there when I get to the site. And so we picked 12 things that we think are things you're probably going to want to do right away, like check grades, pay fees, enroll a student, get in contact with a teacher, learn about the senior internship, things like that. And then up above, we have different drop-down menus up here with different things as well for parents, but these are the kind of the top 12. We have our videos. Each site has their news events, and then some information about different programs and different things that we have going on in the school. So I've been working a lot on this. I'm doing it myself. But it's, in the end, it will save us. I think our current contract was about $20,000 for the website, and doing it this way, cost-wise, it's been about $500. So, but it's been a lot of work to do. So McDowell Mountain's next, and Little Falcons will be after that. But I do want to show you one of the marketing videos because I'm really excited about it. So this one is on Fountain Hills High School, and all parents and prospective people do is click and watch.
Old Fountain Hills, we have something better because of the level of attention that we can give every student.
The first thought I think of is individuality. We offer individualized attention to all of our students. Every teacher in the school knows every single student. They actually care about their grades, and kids don't slip through the cracks in Fountain Hills.
With smaller classes, if you ask a teacher for help, they can spend more time just helping you rather than the class.
We are very proud of our awards that we've won. Because of the individualized attention that each student gets, their test scores nationwide and within the state of Arizona were so high that we were able to get those ratings. So Fountain Hills High School, we have AP Capstone, we have a program called AVID, and we have EBIT, and that is the East Valley Institute of Technology. And we have this incredible partnership with ASU.
Fountain Hills prepared me for my business career in many ways, one of them mainly being having an open mind, openly collaborating with classmates, with instructors, not assuming that my opinion was the only opinion.
I think my experience as a student here at Fountain Hills High School established discipline and accountability. I think those things to me are very important, and without them I wouldn't be who I am.
Fountain Hills is truly a hidden gem. No one seems to really notice what a fantastic school we have and what great individualized attention these kids get.
Because we're smaller, we can be more creative in solving those problems and giving individualized curriculum plans if needed, kind of thinking out of the box all the time because we're able to do that.
I think coming back to teach and coach at my alma mater is special to me, just because it gave me the opportunity to impact the community that impacted me so greatly. I think that was important and definitely swayed me to come back to Fountain Hills to be a teacher and a coach.
Fountain Hills, we have something better.
So, there you go. 1 of 7. So we're very excited, and we're hoping to do some more this year, focusing more on our elementary and our Little Falcons preschool. But feel free to check those out, and they're short. Most of them are 1 to 2 minutes, so we can share them on social media and really just start getting the word out that the work we've done is really impressive. And I'm going to be coming to you soon with state test scores and letter grades, and all I can say is I'm really excited to share with you the growth our district's had the last year. So with that, I conclude my comments.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the work you're doing on the website. That's amazing. Are there any questions or comments for Dr. J?
I just wanted to also applaud the website. I think it looks amazing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the coffee you mentioned that it was your wife that mentioned those links to get to. She's brilliant.
Yes.
That was such a good idea. I love it, and it looks really attractive. Like I love where it's like scanning the field, and I think it looks very nice. And then the videos are excellent. That was awesome,
Thank you.
and I love that it focused on the individual experience that the students can get here. That's
Yep.
everything.
Okay. Next up, our governing board reports. We'll start with Dr. Orkowski.
Okay, thank you. So since our last meeting, I did attend the first football game, and a lot of offense, not a lot of defense, but it was nice, good outcome at the end. And even though I don't drink coffee, I virtually attended Coffee with Kane, or at least part of it, because I was at work and kind of in between things. But that was good to hear some of that and see some of the things you talked about, the website and other things. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed?
I'm going to include the previous weeks. I was able to attend all of the coffees that have happened so far. I did the Coffee with Kane virtually, which I appreciate. And I'm super impressed. At each site, the coffees were very well attended, very well run. The information given was excellent. The spirit there is uplifting. I'll say Val handled some difficult questions. I was really impressed with her leadership there. And I'm excited. I think that things look really good. I wasn't able to go to the football game. I had previous commitments, but I'm excited for the year. I think things look really great.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I was not able to go to the football game as I've been out of town a couple different times. But I guess since our last governing board reports, we all attended the tour of the AC system at the high school, and that's a monster. It was good to kind of see inside and what the working parts were. So that was pretty much it. But I did want to congratulate Mr. Honley. I was notified by the elections department that Mr. Honley was the only applicant to put in, the only candidate for the 2-year position. So his election has been canceled, and he will take his seat as a 2-year board member starting January 1st. So congratulations and welcome to the board as of January 1st, 2025. And good luck to the rest of the candidates that are still running. So, okay. With that, we'll move on to reports, and we're going to hear from Stugo for the first time this year. If you'll come up and tell us what position you hold, your name, and what year you are.
Hi, my name is Katie Hampton, and I'm the student body president.
I'm Shannon Breen, and I'm the senior president.
Yeah, we're both seniors. So basically what Stugo's been working on is like the week of homecoming, which is September 15th to the 21st. And we've been kind of like working on that week and starting off.
And Monday, we have the senior sunrise, which is being catered by DJ's Bagels. And then Monday night, we also have the Powder Puff game.
And then going through the week, on Thursday we have a pep assembly, and we're introducing a new fundraiser, which is Pie a Teacher. So like students can donate money to Pie a Teacher, and the people that donate the most get to Pie the Teacher. And then that night we have the parade, and then Friday night obviously the football game, and then that Saturday is homecoming.
All right. So have you had a lot of teachers sign up for Pie the Teacher?
Yeah,
You
like
have?
10.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you to those high school teachers. Ms. Parse was like, it's not me. Well, that's awesome. Well, good. We look forward to homecoming week and wish you guys nothing but the best. And if you have homework to do, you definitely can be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up are the site council minutes. Are there any questions or comments regarding the site council minutes?
My only question was, I did notice at the high school that they're having a difficult time getting volunteers and coming up with ideas for their PBIS store. Is there a way that do we have a place that current volunteer things are put out more than just like on our website? Are we posting it on the marquee? Are we like, do we have people putting stuff on Facebook?
Yeah, we definitely can do the marquee, so that's good. We can, Crystal, make sure I do that in the morning. I run all those. We do Peach Jar, which is kind of like a quasi social media type thing that we put it out. But we do have a new fund committee that's starting locally in the district with teachers and staff. And it's really about family engagement and volunteerism. And so hopefully they'll be able to take that on and be able to help get volunteers. I will say, as a former high school principal, it is harder to get volunteers at the high school level. It's just kind of natural, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. And I think with a little hard work, we can get there. And it really will start with Barry, with the relationship she already has in the community, and then others just really pushing to get people in to help.
Well, and I love the idea of maybe doing senior internships as one of the
Yes.
options. I thought that was kind of creative.
Yep.
That was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to say that it was really nice to see the same format for all three schools. I really liked that. It was nice and easy to read, and just the bullet points and everything. Well, in the past, it's always been great too. It's just nice that it's in the same format, and so definitely a little more uniform.
I'm going to give that credit to Dr. Wheeldrer. She's mentoring probably both our new principals this year, so I'll let her know that her format is well received.
Yes, no, it is. Okay, any other questions or comments regarding state council minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to current enrollment numbers. Dr. J, do you want to make any comments regarding that?
I'm excited that Tyler obviously is looking at, when he budgets, realities, but also a little of worst case scenario type stuff. And so anytime you come in above the number that he picks is positive. But we really did hit a nice rush of new students at the end of the summer, so much that we may have to, as the year goes on, we may have to look at opening some more sections in certain grade levels to accommodate that. The Little Falcons preschool is almost full, and the reason I say full, I know I don't want to sound contradicting that we have space, but we don't have the staff, and I can't hire somebody on the fly to open a new section. So we will look in January at possibly opening another section if there's demand, but they're pretty close to, they may have 1 or 2 spots left, and that's it. So that's been a real success, and we're really happy about that. The middle school is up year over year. Their enrollment is up, which is huge, because not only is their enrollment up, but their letter grade data right now is showing they're going to have a 20-point growth, which is unheard of. 20 points in 1 year is unbelievably fantastic. So I think there's a lot of good news out there about the school, and Innovate 21 has been a massive success at that school. And I think we're seeing kids are staying or coming back. And then at the high school, we always get a lot of kids at the high school level just because the town, we see more older students moving to the community, and they've done better than what we expected as well. So Tyler had us, he kind of had our number at around 1010 is what he was projecting, and you see the number in there, it's a lot higher. So if that sticks for 100 days, we're good.
And the number we're looking at is 1122 for
Yeah.
people that are inquiring, so. No, that's great. All right. Any questions or comments regarding enrollment? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Krista, do we have any public comments? Okay.
Can I just ask that we maybe have a presentation or a discussion on ways that we can address enrollment and maybe boosting it?
Sure. we
Sure.
can Put that on a future agenda. Okay. Next up are action items. The first one is the personnel action report. Are there any questions or comments?
I just had one. I'm just going to be a no vote because there's a person on here that I know we received some concerns about, and so I'm just, I don't know what action was taken to address those concerns, so I'll be a no vote.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I move that we approve the personnel report as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So carries 2-1, Krista. Next up are the payroll vouchers. Are there any questions or comments regarding the payroll vouchers? Pages 23 to 28.
I'll be emailing my questions instead of asking them publicly. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just know that at any time, if you can, any board member, if we can get it 24 hours prior to the meeting, we will make every attempt to have that answered for you prior to the meeting or at the meeting. But if not, we can get it to you later. Okay?
Thank you.
Mhm.
So there are no questions regarding the payroll vouchers? I motion that we approve the payroll vouchers as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
These are the payroll, not
These are
the-
payroll.
Okay, yeah, aye.
Okay, so 3-0, Krista. Next up are the account payable vouchers. Are there any questions or comments regarding the account payable vouchers? I'd just like to thank Tammy, who's in charge of these, that she's really done a great job of putting in the files for the board to see. That I went through a lot of them, and it was just nice to be able to look at the PO and the check that was cut and everything, so I do appreciate that. So. Oh, and I did want to point out, there was a question before about EPCOR and whether we get one bill or if it's separate bills. So different sites have their own bill, and even on the site, it may have a bill for the site and irrigation separately. So there's several different bills that make up EPCOR. And same with the Republic Services and SRP. Those were 3 that I looked into that they're listed by site. And so sometimes they're paid under the same payroll or the same payable voucher, but they are different bills. So, and she has them all notated under the PO. So just for anybody who wanted to know. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the payroll, the payable vouchers? Hearing none, I motion that we approve the payable vouchers as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 2-1, Krista. Next up are donations. Again, we thank everyone who donates to our district, whether it be cash or goods. Everything is greatly appreciated. And it is nice to see the overage from the football game also get notated so that we don't have any problems with the AG in the future. Are there questions or comments regarding the donations?
I was just impressed with all of the donations that came in, and then I love that a cello was donated because that's my favorite instrument. I think that's great. I love our community.
Do I have a motion for the donations?
I move that we approve the donations.
Oh, I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the 24-25 instructional time model. We've had the 2 public meetings. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Okay, Hearing none, I'll motion that we approve the instructional time model as presented for 24-25 school year.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is a payout for Ms. Reichler. She transitioned from being a dean of students to being an elementary school principal, and so the compensation is different, and so she is requesting that her old compensation be paid out so that she starts fresh as a principal. Are there any questions or comments regarding her payout?
Nope, my only question was if the price changed, and that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The pay changed.
Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the payout for Ms. Reichler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the general leave payout for Ray Smith, again, who transitioned from the position of mechanic to now a director. So his compensation is different. Are there any questions or comments regarding his payout? Hearing none, I motion that we approve the general leave payout for Ray Smith.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the emergency purchase of $883.15 to Bel Air Mechanical. This was, this is for the central plant, but then in the bottom, it also says it's for a repair in the girls' locker room. So those are two separate amounts. So we have changed the agenda item to meet the $883.15, which is for the purchase in the central plant. It is not for the girls' locker room.
Correct.
The girls' locker room was on the same PO, but it is a different amount.
Correct.
So if we have also paid for the girls' locker room, that needs to come back to the board in a separate item, please.
Was that also an emergency?
The
Yes.
girls' locker
Repair?
room
Okay.
flooded, yeah. My other question is, in the past, which I know we've tightened up our purse strings, which I'm thankful for, but we've always had an open PO to Climatech and Bel Air for emergencies or repairs that needed done. So if this is how we're gonna do this now, and everything that comes is gonna be an emergency purchase, where does that put us with the AG? Like, I don't wanna be dinged later because we're not following procurement by having an open PO that things are getting paid as opposed to on the back end.
Yeah, so in my conversations with our consultants, by bringing these to you for approval, we would not have any issue with that because we're bringing it to you, letting you know what happened. And then because they're emergency, we also would then be submitting those to the school facility board for reimbursement if we're chosen to get that. So that's my understanding. That's why I brought you the procurement for Life Touch last meeting. So I can definitely work with Chris. Chris is being very careful, but I can talk to him about having a little flexibility with some Bel Air and a couple that we use to avoid that moving forward and get his and Tyler's opinion and see if we can do that for you, okay?
Yeah, I'm fine doing it this way as long as it's not gonna put us in jeopardy with a deficiency on our audit with the AG. That all this stuff is happening on the back end. I mean, an emergency is an emergency, it has to get repaired. But if it's because these things are happening on the back end because we didn't open a PO, even if we don't open a PO, over $100,000, we can open a PO for $25,000.
Yes.
And, it can be a lower one, but as long as the AG is not gonna give us a deficiency for doing it this way, that's my concern.
I think that because it's brought to the board, because normally these amounts wouldn't be brought to the board anyway, and that's why I think that if there was an open PO, they wouldn't have to be. I like doing it this way if it doesn't hurt us, because
Right.
then we do see the kind of expenses that are coming up out of nowhere that we have to address kind of on the fly. I double check, but I think we're good.
Yeah, I would
Because
just
I-
like confirmation that it's not
I
gonna be a
just,
deficiency.
yeah, I did check on the Life Touch one, and that's why I brought it to you, because.
And Life Touch I get, but Bel Air is somebody that we
I
use
agree. And
regularly,
we can probably
it's a
do
mechanical thing.
10,000 or something like that, or 5,000 something too, because these all together total, $2,000, something like that. So I will work with Tyler and Chris to see if that makes more sense to
Well,
do.
and like Madison said, I mean, we're fine doing it this way. I just want to make sure we're not going to get a deficiency
Sure.
because of it.
Okay.
That's my
Because-
biggest concern.
Yeah, because I'll say I really appreciated getting these, because on one of them, I noticed that it says confident that this unit was undercharged after the previous repair was made, which means we should definitely go to whoever did the repair last time and say, hey, you know, this wasn't repaired correctly, what do we, especially if we're using Bel Air constantly, right? So I appreciate kind of seeing these as they come, especially when it is these emergency situations, A, so that we know what's going on and what kind of emergencies we're coming up with, and B, so that we can have a plan
Okay.
for it.
We'll give you an update soon.
Okay, perfect. Are there any questions or comments regarding the purchase for $883.15 for the repair at the central plant? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I move we approve the emergency and repair for Bel Air.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is an emergency purchase for Bel Air for $760. Let's see. This one is to repair the AC in rooms 136, 305, and the gym. And was this at the high school that it was repaired, or?
McDowell Mountain.
McDowell Mountain, okay. Again, it's for $760. Are there questions or comments regarding that?
So this was the one that noted that undercharged, and then it also noticed that the filters were found completely clogged and not moving much airflow. And same with on the other one, it says revealed that the filters were very dirty. Is that something that Bel Air takes care of for us, or is that something that we do? Because that's a good thing for us to know, just so that we can maybe make sure that gets changed, so that we don't end up in this situation in the future.
If they're the filters in the room, we do them. If they're filters on the unit, I would imagine that they do it, but I'll double check.
Thank you.
Can you write those questions down, and when we have our presentation from Climate Tech, which I've
Yeah,
requested that a
we can ask.
representative from Bel Air come, that you ask that, please?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. And ask them why that was undercharged.
Yes.
Okay, are there any questions or comments regarding the charge of $760? Hearing none, I motion that we approve the emergency purchase for Bel Air Mechanical for $760.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second from Dr. Rakowski. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you vote? I guess you seconded.
Yes.
So. I'm used to having more than 3 people, so.
I'll speak up next time.
No, you're fine. And then the last emergency purchase is for Bel Air Mechanical for $475 for an AC pump that controlled site-wide. Is that also at McDowell Mountain?
Yes, that's what shut down the school.
Got it. Are there any questions or comments regarding the $475 charge? Hearing none, I motion that we approve the $475 emergency purchase to Bel Air Mechanical.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up is the reclassification of a position. We talked about this last time. This is regarding the Director of Special Education and Early Education, that they will no longer oversee the preschool and early education, but will oversee gifted education, McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Liaison, and EL District Test Administrator, K-12 Placement, and AZELLA testing. Are there any questions or comments, or Dr. J, do you have any other information on this?
No, I think the level of work that this position would pick up will really help the district, especially fill some gaps in staffing that we've had over the last year.
Who will oversee preschool and early education now?
So Denise Matus.
Perfect. Thank you.
She's amazing.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the reclassification of position.
I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is action item for policy advisories. This is going to be for 744, 745, and 746. We have moved 747, including its exhibit, onto its own action item. So this is regarding curriculum development and textbook, supplementary materials, selection and adoption. And we discussed this last time, that this is regarding making sure that all committees that are dealing with the textbook abide by open meeting law, that they don't have to be board approved to be open meeting law, so that they should automatically be doing that. Are there any questions or comments regarding that?
I just had one question. When it comes to our curriculum, curriculum group that meets, why am I blanking on that word?
The curriculum committee?
Committee, yes. When they meet, is that open to people just coming and sitting in?
Yes.
Okay. And is that posted somewhere? Okay.
It's posted just like our agendas.
Okay.
So is it on the, it's on the,
It's under student services where we post all the information for supplemental reading, supplemental reading for classrooms, supplemental reading list for the library. It's all under there, under textbook adoption.
is it also posted on the door? Like on the window? We used to put our agenda up on the window.
No.
My concern is just that I don't think that anybody would know where to find it, and even I thought that it wasn't open to other people except for the people on the committee, and that on the committee there's only teachers, from what I understand. So I would love if it could be a little bit more obvious that it's open, because I think that that could do a lot to quell concerns in the community.
I do send out either the constant contact with the information, just like I would the supplemental reading. In that, I can put that the meeting is open to the public.
That would be great, thank you.
Yeah, and I think putting it in the Falcon Focus that we're having that there's curriculum under review would be good as well, so. Okay, are there any other questions regarding those three policies, 744, 745, 746, all regarding curriculum development, adoption, and textbook supplementary materials? Okay, hearing none, I move that we approve policy 744, 745, and 746 with the noted changes that we had discussed at our last meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is policy 747. This is a policy, a regulation, and an exhibit. Dr. Rakowski had a change that he would like to see. So go ahead, Dr. Rakowski.
So the current language on this basically refers to healthcare practitioner or prescribing healthcare practitioner in the first two sections there. I did some research on Arizona revised statutes, and that term is really not used anywhere in the context of where these practitioners or providers are defined. So my suggestion is, and there are several healthcare providers that can prescribe things, they all have separate limitations. So my suggestion is that we change what says healthcare practitioner in the first paragraph to duly licensed healthcare provider, which the healthcare provider is the language used in ARS. And the duly licensed would help emphasize that the provider that makes the prescription is actually licensed to prescribe that medication, which is my concern I raised at the last meeting. So that would change from healthcare practitioner to duly licensed healthcare provider. The second change is under subparagraph A. Prescribing healthcare practitioner would also become duly licensed healthcare provider. Those are the two changes I suggest that we adopt.
I'm sorry, where was the second one located?
It's under A, the first line of A. Instead of prescribing healthcare practitioner, it would become a duly licensed healthcare provider.
Okay, understood. I also had one question where they crossed out physician and wrote physician.
Oh, yeah, on page 99. Or, yeah, I think it's 99. The top, A.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
It's on page 100. I think, you know what?
Oh, yeah, mine.
Yeah. Under A, it says when the physician feels it necessary, but they crossed out physician and wrote physician.
Oh, there's an extra. Oh, wait, no.
It's spelled exactly the same,
Yeah.
physician to physician.
I have no problem with, like, the clarification of the word changes that you proposed. My only question is then are we expecting our staff to check that information? Because now we are putting them on the hook to verify it. Because I think the blanket statement is, if a parent sends in medication in
Yeah.
a bottle, we just count that the parent did that part.
Yeah, this is not meant to imply that there's any double checking, but I think I'm not an attorney, obviously, but it just seems like it strengthens that the prescriptions that we're kind of thinking of who has correct prescribing authority.
And
It's maybe, I'll admit it's picky, but.
I wonder if
Yeah.
there's a way, because like right here it says the parent or legal guardian must provide written permission for the
Yeah.
student to self-administer. I wonder if we could put something with that kind of verbiage in there where it's the parent
Well,
provides the
As I
duly
explained to
prescribed,
Dr.
I don't know.
Rakowski, it's on the parent anyway. We
Yeah.
already checked with our attorney, and the district cannot be held liable.
Mhm.
That, if a parent sends in a prescription medication, that's on the parent. So,
And there's language in there too that says they have to be trained. If they're not a licensed healthcare person, they need to have certain training
Right.
twice a year, or two personnel at each site needs to do that. So I think that's covered. But it would not be meant to restrict administration of what the parents provide.
yeah, that's my only concern is I don't want to be the medication police.
Right.
That if a parent sends in a prescription medication that they feel their student needs, that's between the student and the parent and their physician. That as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do on our end, that our staff is trained, that it has a prescription on the bottle with that student's name, I think that we've done our part. There's always people that are going to work the system, but
Yeah.
we just have to leave that between the parent, the student, and their physician.
Where was the one you said physician was crossed out in?
On page 100.
at the top.
Are you looking at the new board packet or the old one?
No, maybe it's the old one.
So it's either 99 or 100, depending on which one you're looking at. Under section A, it says when the physician, and cross out physician, and then
Oh.
wrote physician. I was just wondering why they
Well,
didn't
that-
change that to healthcare provider.
That should probably also be duly licensed healthcare provider
Yeah,
for consistency.
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So- Okay. And then, as Krista notated, the changes in green, we had changed where it said parent to legal guardian, parent or legal guardian.
Actually, the word physician is in the second line of that too. It's in the first line of A and the second line. So probably both of those should be replaced.
By duly licensed.
Duly licensed healthcare provider. Because otherwise, if we replace one, it doesn't make sense that the
Right.
physician shall provide.
This one,
Anywhere in the document where it says physician, it should be duly licensed?
Well,
in B, it
I
calls
wouldn't
it,
assume that.
on the same page in B, it calls it the appropriately licensed health professional.
Right.
Yeah, which is
Or
more.
nurse practitioner.
Yeah, health professionals also used in ARS and in different things, but in the licensing, it's healthcare provider. But see, that's, the appropriately licensed or duly licensed, same
Yeah.
Same idea.
Because, this also says that it's the diabetes medical management plan.
And then it
Right.
says provided by the parent, which is, I like that it kind of brings the parent into
Right.
it, but
Yeah.
then says signed by the appropriately licensed. So
Yeah.
I think as long as we have some parent involvement and
Yeah.
I would say that it should either say physician and/or duly licensed healthcare provider. That would be my recommendation.
That's fine.
Okay. I'm good with that. All right, so I will move that we approve policy 747, the policy regulation and the exhibit with the changes showing it either said that where it says physician, that it's physician and/or duly licensed healthcare provider, and that healthcare practitioner also be changed to duly licensed healthcare provider. And it's already changed the legal guardian, so that's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second from Ms. Reed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next up is information discussion, purchase over $100,000 for ESI. Dr. J, would you like to discuss that?
Yes, members, board and guests, this is purchase for two employees that we have that are going through ESI due to retirement, and both of them are serving, in my opinion, in hard-to-fill positions, and one of them is serving dual roles as a teacher and director. So I'll take any questions that you have.
So I don't really have any questions, I have a comment. So when I first came to the board, the whole thing about hiring back a teacher that had retired seemed really odd to me. But over the years that I've been here, I found that having the opportunity for retired teachers to retire and still work in our district through ESI, because if you retire from a state agency, you have to take a year away from a state agency before you can come back. And so this is kind of like, they basically are then hired through a private entity, and that's how we get to keep some of our really great teachers and administrators. So that's just my comment on it, that I really do see the value of having our retired teachers have the option of coming back and still working in our district, especially, you know, these two individuals are both in hard to fill positions. It would not be easy to replace them. And they're long-standing employees in our district. Both of them have been here for as long as I can remember. So that's just my comment on it. Are there other questions or comments?
I have a question. So is this the same situation as with the special ed, that they're much more expensive than a higher
No,
teacher?
this is a little different. Yes, there is some costs for ESI to take on, you know, they work for ESI, and then we contract with ESI to have them stay in their position. So it allows them to work, like Ms. Reed said, in retirement. But it's not, in my opinion, the same type of thing where they're taking, you know, you have to earn your retirement, you have to be 30 years in the system, and now that you're at the end of it, having veteran teachers who have been around for a long time that can have some continuity. Some of, you know, one of these teachers teaches multiple sections, which is going to be really hard to find when they finally retire. So again, it's for consistency purposes, is allowing our kids to have the schedule they have and the opportunities they have with dual enrollment plus multiple levels in that field.
So my only question was about, one of them looks like they're getting a hard to fill stipend. Is that normal when we go through an outside company that we also give the stipend? Wouldn't that normally be for the in-house teachers?
I would have to check with Kaylee on whether there's any precedent on that in the past, but it's still, I mean, it's still a hard to fill position.
Yeah, but then wouldn't we look at needing to pay the sped teacher that we just hired through ESI a hard to fill stipend?
So
I think that would be absurd.
the difference is that this teacher is getting the same salary that they've gotten from our district
Correct.
this whole time. Like, they've been an employee of our district.
Mhm.
So the only thing we're saying is, we'll still give you your salary, but we'll pay the ESI fee to keep you here. So it's, otherwise we would be reducing a current employee's salary technically.
And we'll probably, just to be fair, we'll probably have to hire 2 people to do that job when that job becomes open.
I guess the reason I have an even harder time with it is not just because in the end I don't have a hard time paying the person the hard to fill stipend, but it looks like ESI takes a portion of even that, which is a little crazy to me, almost $1,000 of the stipend. And so that's another reason why I appreciate that these teachers have this avenue, and I'll probably be a yes vote on this, but I do have a hard time that ESI is taking $15,000 off the top of one and almost 17.5 off the top of another. And in this case, I see it more than the other, right? Where these guys maybe didn't have an avenue to be a teacher here anymore, and so I love that for them. But I do have a little bit of.
Well, you got to remember too, if teachers get to that point and they know our district's not going to work with them, they may not stay to that point. they may leave our district earlier in their career to go to a district that will work with them when they get to that point.
Absolutely. Well, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is I would hope that when it comes back to the special ed position, that we look at, doing what we need to do so that we're not paying a company an overhead
I just,
instead of our teachers.
I brought my concerns to you that initially started this whole conversation, and I've advocated that it's a personal journey of mine to make sure people are aware of it. We've already brought a draft, and we'll finalize something before next year to be able to hopefully avoid that. But even with that, it may still be difficult because of how challenging it is. And I just reading in the paper earlier this week, Superintendent Horn talked about the crisis of teacher shortage that is on the brink, it's on the horizon, and they're feeling it right now. In my opinion, it's gonna get worse in the next couple of years. So being a small district with about 75 teachers, we're doing everything we can to have consistency, continuity, so our kids have every class they go to, they have a full-time teacher, and we're really happy with where we're at right now, coming out of the summer. And so we will work on the special ed side, I promise, but for this is a way for us to keep some continuity in some key positions.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that I'm going to be a yes vote on this, even though I'm not a fan of the numbers, is because of Denise Matus. I know we're not supposed to put people in the positions, but in the end, people like her we want to keep, right? She's someone that goes the extra mile, creates those relationships with the kids and the families and the other staff. So it's worth, compensating and making sure that she has what she needs to choose us, which is why I advocate for the higher pay for our in-house special ed position. And I did do some research on that, and I did find out there's a company that actually posts what they pay the special ed teachers. They're a private company. They only pay $70,000. So essentially, we offer that, and then we have a better retirement. We have a good benefit package. So I think that we could combat those companies that are trying to poach our teachers. So like I said, I'll be a yes vote because of the family aspect that I feel that we have with these teachers. It would hurt us to lose them.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's my point too, I'm not a fan of the ESI fee, but I'm much more apt to pay the ESI fee to keep people like this and our long-term teachers who do want to take that retirement and still work for a few more years. Because essentially, if you get your teaching degree at 22 and you're in the system 30 years, that puts you at 52. So most people aren't ready to retire then, and I appreciate our teachers that stay. But I agree with you on the special ed thing. As we all said, we didn't like approving it, but our backs were against the wall. So, okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. With that, I move that we approve the purchase over $100,000.
Is it approval tonight?
Oh, it's information discussion. Never mind. She said she's.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to
Hold your
interrupt.
yes till next time. All right. Next up, we were just ready to approve it now. Next up is the 8th grade overnight trip to the Phoenix Zoo. I'm glad that the 8th grade found something that they're going to do with the kids. Do you have any questions, or do you have any more information on this, Dr. J?
I just wanted to share on their website, the Phoenix Zoo, there is information about these trips if you want to take a look at it. The prices are on there, as well as, you can choose your sleeping location. So there's desert tents, and then there's the Neely Events and Education Center with climate-controlled classroom. So we'll have more information from the teachers as we get closer to it. And then there's different themes. So there's a STEM theme for grades 5 through 8 and a conservation theme. I'm guessing they're going to do the STEM theme just because that's something that Mary's really pushing and is teaching an elective of this year. But just want to let you know that there's some information on here if you wanted more before voting next meeting. Okay.
And Mary does say they're requesting indoor accommodations,
Yes.
not the tent.
Right.
Are there any questions or comments?
It looks so fun.
It really does.
I
Sleeping
bet
with
the
the
kids are
animals.
gonna love that.
I think so. I think it's cool. So, and it's only $75 a student, so that's great. All right. Hearing no other questions or comments, we will move forward to more policies. Next up, we have policy advisory 763 to 786. So just like before, we will go through these. And if you have any changes, we can talk about them. And then after the board meeting, if you read them and want changes, please let myself or Krista know, preferably by 3 o'clock on Monday before the board meeting so that we can change them prior. Okay, so. Okay, the first up is policy 763, policy advisory 763, which is policy BEDB. That is for the agenda. It basically just gives a layout of how the agenda should read and the items that should be on it, which we currently have our agenda mirrored after that. Just getting to my agenda here. It mentions at the bottom the changes that for the accommodations for the disabled. It crosses out agency and puts district, and it also says that we need to provide a telephone number and email. Are there any questions regarding policy BEDB, policy advisory 763? Okay, hearing none. The next up is policy advisory 764, which is a regulation BGCR, policy revision and review. There's some changes in there. They took out will, changed it to may, and it says that, if we have, let's see, that we may send a copy of the update to ASBA Policy Services for review or contact ASBA Policy Services they took out by phone. Apparently they don't want us to call them. They prefer you not call them. On E, they took out following review by ASBA Policy Service and just changed it to the updated policy or any newly proposed policies will be placed on the board agenda. Again, in F, they took out will and changed it to may. For that we can send it for review or discussion. Again, crossed out discussed by the phone. That ASBA will electronically publish instead of produce and return to the district, so everything's going to be electronic. And then they took out J completely that said the superintendent will reproduce sufficient copies of the new policy, basically, because everything's going electronic. Are there any questions or comments regarding ASBA policy revision and review?
I had a couple. I would like there to be something in there about some kind of notification being sent out. It doesn't need to be like a copy of the new policy, but if there was an update that's sent out, when it changes, I think it would be good for the superintendent to notify people that the policy's been updated. And then my question was with the changes is when we propose changes in our policy and we send it to ASBA Policy Services, do they engage in a conversation about it? Or because at the bottom it does say this material is written for informational purposes only and not as legal advice. So I know that we can make changes and then we probably just need to run it by our attorney more than even these policy services.
That's the way I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah. And we typically, if there's a major change in policy or law, I send out to the staff updates. So I'll be at the law conference coming up, and all my notes will be taken, and then I have Dave double check it, and then I send it out so they have it. So. Yeah.
And it's also included in our board packets, and I do send emails to the staff encouraging them to look at our board packets, to look at our minutes, to watch the live stream online. So the changes, when we make a change, so any change that we need to make that is tailored to our district, that is something we run by the attorney. These are just, the standard set of policies, the ASBA changes that we can choose to adopt or not. When we do make changes, it's done on a dashboard. So it literally is done electronically.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Next up is Policy Advisory 765 regarding policy communication and feedback, along with a regulation. It changed some verbiage, just updated the verbiage that says instead of employees and patrons, it's now constituents and employees. And it says board members instead of shall. They took that out. It just says board members have access to a current policy manual, that a link is online that's available to all persons. Again, it took out patrons and just changed to constituents. The policy manual will be available online for online access. That a hard copy manual shall be available at such places as the superintendent may determine for use by those persons who do not have access to the manual online. Printed copies of the policy manual shall remain on the property of the district and shall be subject to recall at any time. Do we have a policy manual somewhere in our district office? Okay. And then it says, it changed each to any administrative regulation shall be so designated, included in the manual immediately following the policy with which it's associated. It just took out a repetitive, all policy manuals shall remain on the property. It already said that up above. It also added by accessing the online link on the district's website or if needing a hard copy, that it should be available for public review. The online master copy of the manual will be securely maintained by the superintendent and archived as required by records management standards adopted by the Arizona State Library Archives and Public Records. And it is this online copy that will be used to resolve any discrepancies in language. It also came with a regulation that provided an online link to ASBA. And again, just says the online policy manual shall be maintained by the superintendent, supersedes any discrepancies in language that exist in hard copies of the manual, of the policy manual. And that all changes to the policy manual will be communicated by the superintendent to staff and governing board members, which is what you were asking, and will be archived as required by the Arizona State Library Archives and Public Records. And then it just took out some extra verbiage regarding memorandum, listing codes, pages removed and inserted. And again, just the duplicate of the master copy shall be maintained by the superintendent on the property. Are there any questions or comments regarding that?
I have a comment. I'm going to give kudos to ASBA, which you guys all know how I feel about them, but I love the policy change from employees and patrons to constituents and employees, because even just last board meeting, we saw several people get up that don't have children in the district. They're constituents, their voices matter, right? They support this district with their tax money. So in the end, I love that ASBA is recognizing that it's not just patrons, it's everybody in town.
Absolutely. Okay, next up is Policy Advisory 766, Regulation CCB for line and staff relations. It just took out one line that said a principal will distribute a parental satisfaction survey to the parent of every child enrolled at the school pursuant to ARS 15-353. Did that statute change? Is that why they took that out? Does anyone know? Okay, can we ask why that changed?
Sure.
Thank you. And if you could let us know that before the next meeting so we're prepared, please.
I'm sorry, can I go back to BGC-R where Madison, you had said that you wanted the staff to be notified. Is that sufficient that it's in BGE-R or do you need language in BGC-R?
No, I think this is sufficient. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll find out why they removed that line. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding Regulation CCB? Okay. Hearing none. Next up is Policy Advisory 767, Policy CFD, School-Based Management. It took out, it had, under membership, it says the school council at each school shall take into consideration the ethnic composition of the local community, and it originally said initially, they crossed that out, shall be composed of, and they crossed out 3, And now it just says parents or guardians of students enrolled in the school who are not employed by the district in the school of proposed membership, and B, teachers. It used to say 3, they took out the 3. And then C was non-certificated employees. It used to say 1, now it just says non-certificated employees. D used to say 1 community member if the school was a high school, or 2 if the member is not a high school, but now it just says community members. E took out 1 student if the school is a high school, it took that out. Now it just says students if the school is a high school, and then the principal.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So what the way I look at this is it's giving the site councils some flexibility, but they develop their own bylaws and need to follow those. So these were the minimum requirements in the past. So some site councils may have, where it says 3 parents, they may have 5 or 6, and they just have to have a rotation of that. I have met with our new principals about meeting those site council requirements and making sure, and sometimes if you can't find anyone, you just need to obviously document that the best you can and keep working towards it. But they should have no issue getting that, but giving some flexibility allows them to expand if they want, which is a good thing.
Can I also add to that? The fact that it says in here that a parent or guardian of students enrolled in the school who are not employed by the district in the school of proposed membership, sometimes that's really hard to find parents, and we do have a lot of staff that have students on our campuses. Is there any way to adjust that, or? It's whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just.
Yeah, here's my issue with it, is if they were employed at a different school, like if the high school teacher and they wanted to be on the site council of the elementary school, I would be more apt to go with that. But I feel that if they're a high school teacher and their students in high school, that no, I really want to hear from some parents. So I would like to keep moving forward, having parents. Obviously, any teacher who would like to join site council, especially now, we're not limited by numbers, so.
They would just need to be in that role as a teacher and not a dual teacher parent.
Right.
Okay, got it.
That's my opinion. So, does the board have?
No, I agree.
I have a comment too, or a question. So with the former language, it seems like there was a specified balance, and I could see the point of having more members, but this, the elimination of the numbers means it could be skewed to one group, and it's not necessarily balanced. There could be a lot more teachers and fewer parents, or?
We can set some guidelines as a district on expectations too,
Okay.
and say that, and it really needs to be, it should be an odd number for voting purposes, things of that nature.
And a proper balance between the different categories.
Yeah, so we can put that on our own bylaws when we establish those each year, that we would like to have, because let's say you want to have 3 parents and you can only get 2 to commit. Well, now you're not violating anything, but you made the effort to get to that 3rd one. So we can put that in the bylaws, Dr. Rukowski.
Thanks.
We could actually do a regulation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Our own regulation that kind of details it a little bit more.
Okay, good.
Are there questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to Policy Advisory 768, which is Regulation EBR, the Environmental and Safety Program. On this one, they, under C, where it says comply with HVAC requirements listed in ARS 41-5832 and AAC R76215, they took out coordinate with the district indoor air quality coordinator who will monitor indoor air quality. And then in D, they removed an ARS statute 15-2002A14 and updated it with 41-5702A9. So that's the only change on that regulation. Are there questions or comments?
Do we know if they took Do we know if they took out that line because it's covered in that statute, maybe? Because I don't know why we wouldn't monitor indoor air quality.
Right.
I'll check that.
And the question is, do we have an air quality coordinator?
Yeah, my guess is it's probably an outdated position.
Right.
And it probably falls under like facility coordinator or something like that.
Okay. Next up is policy advisory 769, which is policy EBAA, reporting of hazards and warning systems. They removed part of the pest control. It says pest control applicators employed by the district shall provide the school contact person with notice at least 72 hours prior to the date and time of application of pesticides is to occur, including in such notice. But then they removed all these items that are supposed to be included in the notice, such as the brand name, concentration, rate of application, pesticide label, material safety data sheet, the area or areas where the pesticide is to be applied, and any use restrictions required by the pesticide label. Prior to the application, the applicator shall provide the school contact person with a written pre-application notification containing the following information. So instead of having that paragraph, now it's just going to state, including in such notice should be the brand name of the pesticide to be applied, the location and area where the pesticide is to be applied, the date and time the application is to occur, the name, address, phone number, and contact person of the certified applicator, and a statement that further information such as the product label or safety data sheet is available by contacting the certified applicator. Are there any questions regarding pest control?
I have a question.
Yep.
Since it does in this policy say only a certified applicator may apply pesticides at a school, do we have a pest control company that we go through, or is it something that we have somebody that
We
do
have
it?
two. Actually, I just saw them on the
Yes.
accounts payable.
Mhm.
We have Cummings and we have Blue Sky, are the two pest control companies that we pay.
Okay. And I guess I'm a little uncomfortable with why they would remove things like any restrictions required by the pesticide label. Like, I guess, and they're not providing us with the label anymore at all. Do they normally come when we're not in school, or, I mean?
Yes,
Okay.
they post a warning, and then they come in those time periods where it's safe to return.
Okay, so are we just, because we're removing this in the policy where they would provide us the information to take the precautions, we're just counting on them taking the precautions and making sure that we're safe to go back to school as normal?
Well, Juan would be working with them always to make sure that it's scheduled in a safe time period.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think they removed that stuff because now it just says that you can contact them for it. They're not going to give it to you, but you can contact them for it, so.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding pest control? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to policy advisory 770, which is policy EBC emergencies. They removed the word superintendent and changed to governing board, will develop, and then they moved and maintain. So now it just says will develop district emergency response plans with the superintendent for each school department and other facilities in the district, and will coordinate such plans with the local law enforcement, fire, medical, and hospital authorities as necessary. Training components for staff and students shall be included in the district's, and took out superintendent, so now it's on the district as opposed to just one person, emergency response plans. The rest of it is the same, except at the bottom where it says emergency plans has been crossed out, and internal regulations will be developed and maintained by the superintendent. We do have emergency response plans. Actually, Dr. J, didn't you do your whole
I did.
doctorate on the
So-
dirt?
Yeah, so we have, so each site has the AD plan filled out and, ready. And my only question would be is how do we develop that with the fact, if you read the next line is are confidential exempt from public disclosure. So I don't know if that would be done in executive session, so we'll have to probably check with Dave on that. Because those are something that have to be confidential.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we could schedule an executive session, because now that it says the governing board will develop, I'm not familiar with whatever plan we have in place. It would be very helpful to
I
discuss it,
would
and I
say
saw
we-
that confidential part.
Yeah, and I would say we do that as soon as possible, once this is approved, so that we can get you a copy of what we have and then go forward with any changes that we want to make.
Krista, can you please check with David that that's an executive session that is feasible, please?
Do you want also this to be added as a future action item, even though the policy is not?
Yes, you can put it as a future action. Yeah, you can put it as a future action. Because once this does get approved, then we'll, like Dr. Chase said, we'll schedule the executive session for the next meeting. Okay? Are there any other questions or comments regarding the emergencies policy? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next up is Policy Advisory 771, which is Policy ECB, Building and Grounds Maintenance. It took out the line that said emphasis will be placed on the implementation of a district indoor air quality management plan in order to minimize indoor air pollution. Apparently that's just not a thing. It says the superintendent shall appoint a maintenance supervisor. So the maintenance supervisor has replaced the district IAQ coordinator. So they're just updating that. So our maintenance supervisor, like, I know that we've done some testing in certain buildings, but is this something that's like on a schedule? Like,
Yes, and we actually are working recently with a former maintenance director from our districts past to help Juan with understanding those testing schedules and preventative maintenance and things of that nature. So that's been a big help to us having him back.
okay, yeah, it does say routine preventative maintenance means services that are performed on a regular service at intervals ranging from 4 times a year to once every 3 years, or on the schedule of services recommended by the manufacturer of specific building system or equipment, such as plumbing, electrical, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, special equipment and other systems, roofing systems, including visual inspections. And then it says a roofing inspection is required to be accompanied by accomplished prior to any repair or replacement of roof elements or roof-mounted equipment performed in accordance with the requirements of the local building official requiring a permit, and conducted by a registered structural engineer or other professional or with appropriate skills, training, and certification. Are there any questions regarding building maintenance? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to Policy Advisory 772, Policy EEAA, Walkers and Riders. So this policy has stayed the same other than under the transportation for pupils who do not reside within an established school attendance area, limited to no more, it was 20 miles, now it says 30 miles, so they just updated that. So, are there any questions or comments regarding walkers and riders?
Yeah, I just had a question, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I'm not sure about the 30 miles. Does that require us to provide transportation on a bigger distance? Because 30 miles is a big distance.
Yeah, so we looked into it, and Dave did not feel that it was anything that was a requirement. It just allows us the flexibility to go the 30 miles. And that was updated a while back. We've known about 30 miles is the max, and it's not, it's actually 30 miles.
Will we set a radius from the district office?
Yeah, so 30 miles is a long ways away.
Yeah.
When you do it that way. So what it would do is if the district ever decided they wanted to put a bus stop in, say, Scottsdale or Mesa or something like that, it just has to be within 30 miles of the district. That's the way I understand it. We are, transportation is something that the district offers, but we offer it to our boundary students at this time, and that's what is indicated in there. So I don't see anything, and Dave did not see anything that made it a requirement for us to do that.
Yeah, at the top it says it authorizes the administration to provide, but it doesn't say like shall or must. So I think that
Yeah.
it's flexible and up to the discretion of our administration.
Any other questions or comments regarding walkers and riders? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to Policy Advisory 773, which is a regulation for EEAE bus safety program. So it took out, AAC, it updated this number from R 17-9104 to 13-13104. It added any person boarding or attempting to board a school bus, whether or not a passenger, and then it crossed out passengers, shall comply with all instructions given, and then it crossed out to them by a school bus driver. If a passenger or a non-passenger boards or attempts to board a school bus, and then it crossed out who has boarded the school bus, and refuses to comply with the school bus driver's instructions, the new section says the school bus driver may seek emergency assistance to remove the passenger or non-passenger from the school bus or prevent the passenger or non-passenger from boarding. And then they crossed out be surrendered into the custody of a person who is authorized by the school to assume responsibility for the passenger or non-passenger. So I much prefer they seek emergency assistance, not we detain them.
Yeah. I mean, that's the question, is there liability? They try to remove the passenger.
Right?
There's liability there.
Yeah. Calling the police is a better option.
Right.
Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Okay, hearing none. Next up is policy 774, policy advisory 774, policy GBEF, staff use of digital communication and electronic devices. So this is regarding social media. It says social media is the use of web-based and mobile technologies to communicate through interactive dialogue. Social media technologies include, but are not limited to, blogs, picture sharing, vlogs, wall postings, email, instant messaging, music sharing, crowdsourcing, voice over IP, Facebook, LinkedIn, and it took out MySpace, apparently because we're all too old and nobody uses that anymore. It also crossed out Twitter and replaced it with X, which is Twitter's new name, YouTube, and any successor protocol to transmit information. And then it talked about mobile technologies are devices that transmit sounds, images, text messages, videos, or electronic information. And then it says current examples are smartphones such as, and it took out BlackBerry and left Android, iPhone, and other such mobile technologies in subsequent generations of these and related devices. Those were the only updates to this policy, is basically taking out MySpace and BlackBerry and replacing Twitter with X. The rest of the policy still stays. Are there questions or comments regarding staff use of digital communication and electronic devices?
Should TikTok be added to that?
That's a good
I
one.
mean, if we're specifying Facebook, LinkedIn, all that, right, add TikTok.
And Snapchat.
Okay, Snapchat too. How about Instagram?
Yep.
Okay. Are there others? I don't know.
TikTok,
I'm sure there are. We're too old.
Snapchat,
Instagram.
We don't have any kids in the audience.
Yeah, what else?
It'll all be outdated in a year.
Right. Any other questions or comments or additions? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to policy advisory 775, policy GDC, support staff leaves and absences. So this,
Are we just getting rid of that
yeah, I
policy?
think it took out the whole
Get rid of it.
policy, because it
Yeah.
says refer to GCC through GCCE and GCCH, but the whole thing's gone. So I guess because it really wasn't a policy, it just said refer to everything else. So, okay, so we're just removing that. Okay, next up is policy advisory 776, which is policy IHA, basic instructional program. So this policy pretty much stays intact. It did take out the instructional program will include planned sequences in, but instead it said minimum course of study for students in the common schools. Students shall demonstrate competency as defined by the state board adopted academic standards at the grade levels specified in the following required subject areas. Instead of having everything listed out for English, such as language arts, reading, spelling, handwriting, it just lists everything under English language arts, ELA. For mathematics, it crossed out experiences and it's just mathematics now. C, social studies, and again, it took out the examples such as history, including Native American history, geography, civics, economics, world cultures, political science, and others. But it did add, under social studies, it says including civics and instruction on the Holocaust and other genocides at least once in either the 7th or 8th grade, and instruction in the constitutions of the United States and Arizona, American institutions and ideals, and in the history of Arizona, including the history of Native Americans in Arizona, for a total of 1 year during kindergarten through 8th grade. For science, it took out experiences, it just says science. And then it also added 2 or more of the following: visual arts, dance, theater, music, media arts. It took out fine and practical arts experience, art education, vocal and instrumental music, and vocational business education. It took out technology skills, took out health and safety educations, and then it added health, physical education, including mental health. Mental health instruction may be included as part of other subject areas and shall comply with ARS 15-701.02. It took out foreign or Native American language. And then it says minimum course of study for graduation from high school, see policy IKF. And then it took out the planned program for all students shall also include library instruction, individual study guidance, and other appropriate instructional activities, and all instruction required under state law and Board of Education. So those are the changes in this policy. Are there questions or comments?
I have a question. Yeah. I just wonder why they took out technology skills. Seems like that's an important thing to include.
I would think so too, but maybe because technology is so embedded in every class now.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Just
because it maybe under media arts, that it's included under media arts.
Like TikTok?
As long as our teachers are on it.
Okay.
I mean, we can leave it on there, so. But again, these are just, these are the minimums. It doesn't necessarily mean that
Yeah. It's
that's
not that we're
all
not
we
going to
do.
include it, but it's just odd to remove that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. We will move on to graduation requirements. Policy Advisory 777, Policy IKA. Let's see. Hold on here. Krista, you have on the list it says IKA, but the policy you gave us is IKF. It does say graduation requirements, but can we check on that, whether it's policy IKA or if it's policy IKF?
If you give me 1 minute, I can look right now.
Okay. We'll start talking about it while you look. Graduation requirements, regular education, nothing changed on the first page. The second page says pursuant to ARS 15-710, a total of 1 year instruction in state and federal constitutions, American institutions, and ideals, and in the history of Arizona, including the history of Native Americans in Arizona, is required during grades 9 through 12.
It should be IKF. IKA is grading and assessment. So I think it's wrong here.
Yeah, it's wrong on the list, so it should be IKF. Thank you. And I think that's the only part that they added, was the 1 year instruction in high school regarding the state and federal constitutions, American institution, and ideals in the history of Arizona, including the history of Native Americans in Arizona, is required. Are there any questions or comments regarding graduation requirements?
Just more kudos to ASBA for adding the Constitution in there. I think that that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up is policy 778, policy advisory 778, which is policy IMA, and Regulation IMAR regarding teaching methods, lesson plans. So nothing changed on the actual policy. Oh, I'm sorry, it did.
Books.
Instead of books, it's now plans, to allow plans to be inspected and compared to the guidelines established by the superintendent. And then under the regulation, it changed, it says, while teachers are required to be thoroughly prepared for each daily lesson, plans may be prepared for each lesson or on a long-term basis, unit of work, whichever is most appropriate. And then it says, it added supplementary materials to be used in a lesson and took out such as duplicated material, cassette tapes. What? Nobody's using cassette tapes? What's wrong with these policies? Films, film strips, and transparencies. Do you have any cassettes in your room? May serve as an integral part of the plan. So if you have cassette tapes, Mrs. Barsma, out the door. So, all right, so that's the only change, is taking out the obsolete items.
And technically, they can still use them.
They could.
They just
They're
broadened
just
your horizons with
Yeah.
supplementary materials.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the teaching methods, lesson plans? Okay, hearing none. Next up is Policy 779, or Policy Advisory 779, Policy JFA-BDA, Admission of Students in Foster Care. There are some changes here. It says, the first change is under C. It says, it is determined that a change of educational placement is in the best interest of the child. The educational institute, and took out child, shall enroll the child, and took out be immediately enrolled. So it basically changed the sentence from saying the child shall be immediately enrolled to the education institution shall enroll the child in a new school within 2 days. A child shall be immediately enrolled in the new school. Even if the child is unable to produce records normally required for enrollment or owes any outstanding fines or fees to the school of origin. However, the student may be required to provide their notice to provider's document. Then D, it says the enrolling school shall, and crossed out immediately, contact the school, and then added of origin, and took out last attended by such child, and then added within 2 days to obtain relevant academic and other records. Upon request for records, any such child from another school, every effort shall be made to provide records within 2 business days. So it's basically just mitigating the time that districts are to enroll students that are in foster care with or without records until the records can be requested, and that they should be requested in a timely fashion. Are there questions or comments regarding that? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to Policy Advisory 780, Policy JH, student absences and excuses. So they added, it says the regular school attendance of a child of school age is required by state law. Regular school attendance is essential for students for success in school. Therefore, absences shall be excused only for necessary and important reasons. Such reasons include, and it was illness, and they added mental or behavioral health, and then the other ones were bereavement, other family emergencies, and observance of major religious holidays of the family's faith. So the only words that it added were mental or behavioral health. So, are there questions or comments regarding that? Okay, hearing none. Move on to Policy Advisory 781, Regulation JHD, exclusions and exemptions from school attendance. So they added, it says the district will provide appropriate educational, this is regarding chronic health conditions, by the way. Says the district will provide appropriate educational opportunities for any student identified, and then it added by a certified medical, mental, or behavioral health professional such as a physician, podiatrist, chiropractor, naturopath, doctor, osteopath, or psychologist, and then it removed an appropriately certified health professional in the fields of podiatry, chiropractic medicine, naturopath, medicine, osteopathy. So it just updated the list a little more to include mental or behavioral health professionals, and then left the other items in there as well. Dr. Akowski, do you have any change?
Yeah, well, the only comment here is osteopathist. I've never heard that word. They're referred to as osteopaths. Just an odd term that I've never heard before. But whatever.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Moving on. Policy Advisory 782, which is Regulation JIH, student interrogation, search, and arrest. So there's some changes on here. So it used to talk about child protective services, and now they've changed child protective services to be a child safety worker, a child welfare investigator, or peace officer. That if they enter the campus requesting to interview a student attending the school administrator shall be notified. Access to interviews shall be granted when the child to be interviewed is the subject of, or is the sibling of, or is living with the child who is the subject of an abuse or abandonment investigation. The personnel of the district shall cooperate with the investigating child. Again, it added safety worker, child welfare investigator, or peace officer. So it just keeps updating the child protective services to be a child safety worker, child welfare investigator, or peace officer. So it's just updating the terms.
So isn't the state agency still called Child Protective Services? I thought that's their official name.
It's DCS, Department of Child Safety.
Oh, the department, okay.
So,
I'm living in the past, thank you.
do you have cassette tapes?
No, I don't have any cassette tapes, no. They might be worth something, though.
It might be.
I don't know.
I don't think my mixtapes are, but, all right. Are there any questions or comments regarding the updated terms? Okay, hearing none. We're almost done. There's a lot of policies. Okay, next up is Policy Advisory 783, Policy JJE, Student Fundraising Activities. So this added, the governing board shall approve, and then it says fundraising activities by students on school premises or elsewhere as representatives of the school, period. It took out will be permitted only for the types of fundraising activities approved by the governing board and when connected with specific school activities approved by the superintendent. And it also added the governing board may create a list of pre-approved fundraising activities for the superintendent, activities the superintendent may approve upon written request. That's the only change. Are there questions or comments regarding the change regarding fundraising? Okay. Hearing none. Policy Advisory 784, Exhibit JKEA, Student Discipline. This updated the first paragraph that it says, each principal shall establish and retain complete records of student disciplinary action and procedures. Records regarding student disciplinary action shall be retained for at least, and it added 4 years as opposed to 2 years after the last attendance date. So now we're required to keep them for 4 years versus 2. And that is the only change on that, is just the time. Are there questions or comments regarding the length of records? Okay, hearing none. Next up is Policy Advisory 785, Exhibit KBEB, Parental Involvement in Education.
J.
In J.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it changed just the one sentence regarding child protective safety. It used to say child protective services, now it says child safety services investigation. and then it says, change the word "are" to "is." That is routinely addressed as student disciplinary matters at the school. Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Hearing none, we'll move on to our last one, Policy Advisory 786, Policy KEC, Public Concerns, Complaints about Instructional Resources. So this just added a couple lines. It says, citizens request for reconsideration of instructional material. Upon receipt of a request for a reconsideration, the superintendent will review the work in question and prepare a report. After review by the superintendent, copies of the request form and the report will be sent to the principal and the citizen. And then it also added, it says, should a complaint reach the board may refer the matter back to the superintendent for further review, or the board may review the materials in question in the light of its policy establishing criteria for the selection of materials. And then it added, utilizing the criteria for selection established in Regulation IJJR as a guide. Are there any questions or comments about that? Okay, hearing none. That is the end of our policy advisories. Future action, we will have a SPED presentation at some point. At our next meeting, correct, Climate Tech is coming with someone from Bel Air. And then we added enrollment, and we added a executive session regarding the disaster plan.
And can I also request an update on where we are with the club policies and where, like, writing or addressing that at least?
Okay, dates of upcoming meetings. Our next meeting will be September 18th and then October 1st, both currently scheduled for 6 o'clock here in the Learning Center. And with that,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No voice left now. It's a lot of reading.
Even with all those, that may have been record time.
I know, right? Oh, we have to sign. Sign. All right. So this is that's a payroll.